Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be servicing the rear swing arm. Now to remove the rear swing arm I'm going to have to take off the rear hub and I'm going to have to remove the rear suspension linkage. Now there are separate videos on that and I'll pop cards at the top of the screen. So before getting the bike up on a stand or a lift, I suggest you loosen off the swing arm pivot bolt. It's 22mm on this side and it's 17 I think on the other side. Okay, so this is 46mm. Okay, this side is also 46mm. It's a stake nut, but if you just turn it, it'll unstake itself. This is made a little bit easier by putting the bike in gear and grabbing the front brake. Maybe you can get somebody to help you. There we go. So we've got the bike up onto the bike stand. Now don't worry if you haven't got a bike stand, you can do this by using axle stands. I've done it in the past, if you look at the other video, where I put axle stands underneath the foot pegs or underneath the foot peg mounts, because obviously the foot pegs will bend. If you do it that way, try to support it in another fashion as well. Maybe put something under the engine, maybe strap it up to the ceiling or something, just to make sure it's supported well. Okay, and we're going to loosen off the chain tensioner. This is 17mm. And we're going to take off the chain guard. This is a T30. So as you can see, it's a stake nut. It's actually a sacrificial nut and you should change it. Okay, so you're using a C-spanner. You want to loosen off your chain. This is just a workshop one. There is one under your seat. It's a little bit tight, that's the reason I'm taking it all off. So it's clockwise to loosen it. Okay, now before you try to take this off, you're going to have to also take your brakes off. I think it's a 14mm. Okay, so you should be able to hit that through now. There we go. So let's just stick this to one side for the moment. And the ABS sensor is going to have to come off. That is also a T30. Okay, so note in the bolt, note in the washer. It does also have thread lock on it. Okay, so I've just put a nut on the back there, just to hold them all in place so I know which order they go in. So you can see everything there is working quite well. Just needs a good clean. And I think it'll be easier to take the chain adjuster off in situ. Okay, see if I can get this off with the cheapest circuit pliers in the world. If you're only interested in taking the eccentric chain adjuster off, there is a separate video on the channel for that. I'll put a card at the top of the screen. Okay, I think I'm going to have to get some new circlip pliers. Okay, so I've gone out and bought a new circlip pliers. It's a bit more substantial than the last one. It's also got like a ratchet sort of design on it, so it kind of holds itself in place. Let's see if we can get this off. I didn't want to go just prising it around with pliers or something that could help it, because I didn't want to put any stress on the circlip itself. So as wide as I can get it. Just going to try and pull it off slightly. Oh, there we are. Now noticing under here there's a lot of copper grease on here, and I've never taken this off, so that must be there for a standard from the factory. Okay, as you can see, it's looking a little bit dry and crudded up there, so that needs to be cleaned off, of course, and in there. So you can see in there, a little bit dry in places, so this will all come apart and be cleaned. So I'm just going to try and slacken off some of the lower suspension linkage. Now the bolt that holds it to the frame, it's a 8mm Allen key on this side. There's a 14mm nut on this side. Okay, and the others, they are a T55 on the left, and again a 14mm on the right. So I'm just going to take the rear hugger off to give myself a bit more room. These are held in place by T30s. That one's very, very tight. Yes, very, very tight. There we go. So it's probably gone dry in there, I would imagine, and that's why it's difficult to turn. Okay, so you can see that one is crudded up quite a lot. So I'll definitely be putting a bit of anti-seize on there, copper slip, or whatever you call it. So some of these bolts are obviously in the vicinity of mud and dirt kicking up, so it's going to potentially rust more. Yeah, that one wasn't so bad because it's not right underneath the mud guard. Okay, so holding the mud guard on, there is one just here. And there's also one on this side. So I probably would have got away without taking the rear hugger off on the chain guard, but I will need to take this bit of plastic off because it holds in the cable for the ABS sensor and the hydraulic pipe for the rear brake caliper. So this bolt here, it holds on part of the trim that I'm trying to get off, but it also holds on the chain slider, and the chain slider is also probably held on with the axle bolt for the or the pivot bolt for the swing arm. Again, all these bolts underneath are quite difficult to get out because they're obviously picking up all the dirt and crap from underneath. We appear to have another bolt there, but I can't see. Ah, there it is. Okay, so if I just pull that out of the way, there's another one just there, right at the back. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. I'm just managing to get to this one by putting a large extension bar on here. There we go. Okay, there's only one more left, and it's just hidden in here. This just holds the hydraulic pipe on. It's got to come off because it's screwed to the underside of the swing arm. I'm going to take the front chain sprocket guard off. And when I take the chain off, I want to be able to slip the chain over the front sprocket. Otherwise I'll have to take the chain off and split it, which I really don't want to do. Okie. Okay, so now theoretically this swing arm should be ready to come off. So I've undone the clip that was holding the brake hose on. I've kind of routed the ABS sensor out of the way. There's a little clip just behind the foot peg hanger, which I could do with taking off, but I'd have to take the foot peg hanger off, and this is the only thing holding the bike up. So I've loosened off the rear shock because I'm going to probably take that out as well. So hopefully I'll be able to get this off. So I now need to wind out the swing arm spacer. Now you need a special tool for this, which is number 19 on this diagram, which is a swing arm adjuster wrench. So I haven't got one, so I'm just going to have to make one. So to make this tool I just used an old socket. Okay, so let's see if my special homemade socket will get this nut off. Good, I think that seems to have worked. Okay, so I've got the adjustable swing arm spacer retracted. Now theoretically I should be able to remove the swing arm. I've not come across something like this before with the way the spacer works. Normally you get just the pivot bolt and then a spacer goes on the end of it. So I guess this makes it a little bit easier. You haven't got to try and squeeze a spacer into the gap. Now if you've got the previous generation speed triple, kind of like that one, that's the 2014. I think on that model you have the spacer like this, or the adjustable spacer, and then I think there's like a lock-in spacer goes over it as well. I'm not entirely sure. So if you get the previous model you've probably got two of these. Okay, so as I said, theoretically you should be able to remove the swing arm now. I've loosened off the suspension so I can slip that out, but this seems to be getting in the way a little bit, so I think the exhaust is going to have to come off. And then hopefully the chain will slip past the front sprocket. It won't at the moment, it's just a little bit tight against the frame. But when I pull the swing arm out, hopefully it'll give me a bit of room. And I've put this stool here, so when I do pull it out, I got somewhere to rest it. Okay, so I've had to take the complete exhaust off the silencers and the link pipe. So I'm trying to get to this bolt, which holds this little bracket on that holds the brake pipe in place. Now I couldn't do that with the exhaust in the way. And to get it off easily, you'd have to take the foot peg mount off, but obviously the foot peg mount is holding the bike up. So if you're just jacking it up from underneath in some sort of other fashion, you might be able to do that, but I need to get access to this. And in the long term, it does make it easier, so I'd probably suggest you take the exhaust off. So to get that bolt off, you're going to need a T30. Now in the conventional fashion, you'd have it in there on your ratchet. But I can't do that, there's not enough space. I'm having to put a small spanner on there and try to turn it in that fashion. Okay, so that was the bolt that was in there. Just a bit of a nuisance to get out. So theoretically this should just lift out. It was a bit of a job getting it past the front sprocket, but I found if you took it from there, took it up and at an angle, then the chain would come out at an angle. I was almost going to leave it where it was and just clean it up on the stool there. There we go, so there's the bracket which is screwed on underneath. So that goes into there and there. So let's clean up these bearings. So I'm going to give it a little spray of paraffin. Okay, so I've got a bit of grease in there. Just put the sleeve back in. That sounds okay. So look at the other side. think this side's got a sealed bearing. Yeah, that seems fine. I'm just going to apply a little bit of grease on this once I've cleaned it up. And whilst you're here, you might as well clean this pivot point. There's a bearing in there. Let me clean the outside first. Now this has been cleaned in the past when I did the lower suspension linkage. Feels okay. Cool. Right, so a bit of a change of plan. I think I'm going to take this needle bearing out and change it because they are quite cheap. The seal bearing on the other side seems fine. It's just this one's making it makes a little bit of a noise, so whilst you're here, you might as well take it out. So what I'm going to do now is slide this 19mm socket in behind. Just show you. So you can stick it in there and then get it in the back. So there's a nut in there. Just get this threaded bolt in. Okay, now using a large socket then to sort of receive the bearing. You could take the seal out if you wanted to, but it'll all pull out at the same time, I would imagine. This is a 38mm. Okay, now theoretically if I tighten this up, it should pull the bearing out. Okay, so there's the bearing. Okay, there's the seal, the inner seal. I'll probably just replace all of those. So that's the end of this video for the moment. I'm going to have to do this in 2 parts while I wait for the new bearing to arrive. Maybe some of you more technical people out there can tell me why they would use seal bearings on one side and needle bearings on the other. It seems that seal bearings are a lot more reliable. You can hear it there. Just making a little bit of noise. So for the sake of a few quid, you might as well just get a new one.